Good morning. Today is Tuesday, October 26th, 2021. In last week's Torah portion, near the end, we had the dramatic narrative of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, where Abraham is commanded by God to offer his son Yitzchak as an offering to God. Now that narrative is introduced with these words, V'ho'elokim nisa es Avraham, and God tested Avraham. Now, as many commentators point out, the purpose of the test is not for God to know what Avraham is going to do. God, of course, knows the future and knows what Avraham will choose. Rather, the purpose of the test is to allow Avraham to actualize what was within him already as potential and to bring it out into actuality so that Avraham would understand of what he was capable. And through Avraham, we should understand of what we are capable. As we discussed before, we inherit the spiritual strengths and the moral strengths of our patriarchs. They become ours. So we have this strength as well. And we also need to understand through this test the scope of what God asks of Avraham, and by extension, of us. Excuse me. Excuse me. Our sages, in fact, tell us that Avraham was given 10 tests. And it was only because Avraham passed all 10 of these tests that he was chosen by God to be the patriarch of Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, to start this bold experiment. Excuse me. Of a revolutionary way to organize a society and to lead a people and to unfold through history, which we know of as the Jewish people. Now, we assume that if there are 10 tests, they start from easiest to most difficult. Each one is an increasing level of difficulty. But there is no clear statement anywhere what the 10 tests were. The Akedah, which I mentioned to you at the beginning, is the only time that the Torah explicitly says this is a test. The others have to be inferred. Rashi says, and there are different opinions about what the identity was of each of the 10 tests, except for the Akedah we know is one of the tests because the Torah says, Hashem Nisas Avraham. But Rashi says the 10 tests are comprised of narratives in the Parsha of Lech Lecha and the Parsha of Vayera. Number 1 is Lech Lecha, when God tells Avram to leave his family, to leave his homeland and go to a place that he has not yet shown him. That is an amazing test, to leave everything behind for some unbelievable but also unknown, uncertain future. That was test number 1. And Rashi goes through the narratives of the other tests until we get to number 10, which is the Akedah, which makes sense that is number 10. Certainly the most difficult test for Avram to be able to be willing to offer his son as an offering to Hashem that takes such faith, such trust. Unbelievable. That certainly is number 10. Rabbeinu Yonah, another one of the important medieval commentators, is the only one who says that the Akedah is test number 9. And the beginning of our Parsha, Chayei Sarah, is test number 10. Test number 10 is near the beginning of our parsha. Sarah dies. Avraham needs a place to bury her. So he goes to a person whose name is Ephron, and he negotiates with Ephron to buy a field. First, it seems like it's going to go easily. Then it turns out Ephron is going to charge him a large amount of money for this field. But finally, Avram purchased the field and the cave which is in the field, and the cave is used as the burial place. We know this as Ma'arat HaMachpelah. This is the place where our patriarchs and matriarchs are buried in what is now Hebron, in the southern part of Israel. And according to Rabbeinu Yonah, that is test number 10. The Akedah in last week's parsha is only test number 9. The problem with that is if we assume that the tests are of ascending difficulty, how is it possible that there was any test after the Akedah? How could there even possibly be a test more difficult, more wrenching than being told to offer one's beloved son as an offering to God? And what was so difficult about the field? I understand. Sometimes you go to buy something and it doesn't work out so smoothly. You have to haggle over the price. You end up paying more than you should have paid for it. Okay, all right, that's an inconvenience. You lose some money. But I mean, after all, it's some bargaining. It's some extra money. How could that possibly be considered a test that is an even greater test than the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, that this should be test number 10? So I want to share with you an insight of Rabbi Yisachar Frand. And this is an insight that is so important to being able to navigate life. It applies in every area of life, including some that are particularly relevant to us right now, but applies in every area of life. After the most difficult moments in life, after we have gone through what seems to us to have been a supreme struggle that required from us a superhuman strength, and somehow we get through it, we're exhausted. Maybe we're elated, but we're exhausted. We did it. We finally made it to the mountaintop. We have nothing more to prove. We're at the top. We did it. And then there's a test. And the test is, you're not finished. The test is, Avraham, you think that you did the highest possible test of belief in me, of trust in God. You put forth an effort that, frankly, I don't think any human being can even appreciate how difficult this was for Avraham. Avraham, you think now you get to rest? You think now you're exempt? You think now everything is going to go easily? No. Life doesn't work like that. Life is a series of tests. And when we have finished the most difficult, and we finally say to ourselves, you know, I'm exempt. I need a free ride. I should be able to coast at this point. There is still a test. For Avraham, the test was to continue to believe God's promises, because remember, we've discussed this before. God had promised Avraham they would have the land of Israel. Now here he is, an old man. His wife has died. He doesn't have enough land in Israel to be able to bury his wife. He's got to go purchase it from someone else. What happened to God's promise? He was going to give him the land. That promise has been repeated and repeated. So we have another test At the end of Avraham's life, where he is required to continue to maintain his belief and trust in God and the promises that God had made, even though Avraham had done everything that God had told him to do, including the Akedah, but even after the Akedah, you're not finished, Avraham. There's still another test. It can be very demoralizing. It can be exhausting when you think that you have given every ounce of your strength to climb a mountain and you finally reach the top of that mountain only to discover that there is another higher mountain beyond. And the test is to recognize challenges continue. Don't give up. Keep up the effort, even when we are tired, even when we think we deserve to rest. This is true in so many areas of life. It's true in areas of physical health where a person is battling a certain condition and it's serious and they work very hard at it and it's difficult, and finally with great strength and resolve they're able to overcome it, only to find that now there's something else. And yes, it's easy to be demoralized at that moment. But that's the moment when a person needs to remember Rabbeinu Yonah's insight of Avraham's 10th test. That's when you have to have the strength. We raise children. If we're blessed with children, we raise children. We put all our energies into raising children. And finally, there comes a point where we say to ourselves, okay, they're settled. They're on their path. They don't need my help so much. I've done that monumental job. And then a call comes, and we're needed again. And the effort is not finished. And just when we thought we could rest from that effort, it comes back. And this is so true concerning COVID. We've done everything we're supposed to do. We get the shots. We're wearing the masks. For a long time, we're not coming to shul. We're coming in small groups. We're avoiding people. We're alone. We're without our family. We're without our friends. COVID is not over. I hope it's close to over, but it's not over. There are people who are still at risk. There are people who are dying now. And so as much as we feel we've done everything we need to do, let's let it be over. Let's just say to ourselves, it's over. And I know a lot of people say that. And there are a lot of places where that is the widespread attitude. I know that. But number one, it's not true. Number two, that attitude is not safe because people still are getting sick now. People are, God forbid, dying now. And just when we think that we've put in all the effort it deserves and we are tired, we deserve to be able to be finished with this. Yes, I certainly agree with this. But it's not true. And Avraham's 10th test, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, is the inspiration that we need to say, we put in the effort. We thought we climbed this mountain. We thought we vanquished this foe. But there is still another mountain. There is still another hill to climb. There is still another way to go. We're not finished. Because the truth is, the depth of what Rabbeinu Yonah is teaching us is that in this life we are never finished. It is a life of challenge that we're supposed to rise to grief and not get tired and not get demoralized. That's the hardest challenge. Any one incident that requires tremendous energy and drama, and there is a rushing through ourselves of enthusiasm to want to do the right thing. It's amazing, it's incredible, it's overwhelming. The greatest test is when we think we finished the biggest test and we realize there is another mountain to climb. And that's why test number 10 in our Parsha is the most difficult. And it is when Avram succeeds in this test that he is appointed and selected as the one who will begin the Jewish people. And then Avraham bestows, bequeaths that strength of the actualization that was only within his potential. He bequeaths it to us. And we have the resources of that energy because Avram passed this 10th test. My friends, I want to wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing all of you soon in person.